Hey folks, I'm Daniel Reed, a Principal Cloud Solution Architect at HP, and I'm here today to give you a video demo of an app I created that uses the Lens APIs to show you the art of what's possible and also helps you perform tenant operations in a bulk fashion. Specifically, I created this tool around real customer scenarios involving inconsistent room naming patterns and missing metadata. So if you've got rooms, some room names have dashes while others have spaces, or some rooms have sites and some don't, this tool will allow you to fix that. It will also allow you to update fields like capacity, size, and floor. These pieces of metadata are critical to the validity of the insights and analytics around how your rooms are being utilized. If you don't have a capacity set and you get information on average people count in that room, you won't know if you're over, under, or at capacity without having that value defined. So I'm excited to show you this tool and hope that it helps you update the rooms and sites in your Lens tenant. All right, so we are going to walk through the Lens Control Ops deck, how it works, how to use it. If you want to install it and follow along, you can find it at my GitHub repo. There is a README in the repo that is going to walk through some of the things that I'm going to show you in this demonstration. It also gives you instructions on the requirements and how to get it set up and installed. So it's a fairly straightforward install. It does use Python, and these setup steps just follow these setup steps to walk through it. So with that done and the tool installed, we will pop over to our terminal and we will walk through it. So what you see here is the folder of Lens Control Ops Deck, and basically where I'm at right here is where you would navigate to the root of the project after it's installed, and that's where you're going to run it from. So you'll also notice that I am inside my virtual environment. The install steps walk you through this. It's pretty much a one or two commands here to get in your virtual environment, but just make sure that you are inside it. That way you don't get errors. So with our virtual environment instantiated, we will just type Python space CLI.py. That will launch the tool and initialize everything and drop you into the main control panel. So we have a couple things going on here. We have the console being online, meaning the tool is launched. We have our API endpoint. This is the Lens GraphQL endpoint that we are using for our queries. We've got our API credentials name and our API credentials role. So the name and the role are associated to the API credentials that you've created in your Lens tenant and are what are being used for your access token and grant you access to the data in the tenant. So if we look over at the right here, we've got our task list. We have pretty much three primary tasks. We can export all of our Lens rooms to a CSV. We can update all of our Lens rooms from the CSV, so it's going to read each row from the CSV and send that information up to Lens, or we can create rooms in bulk. So the way that we're going to walk through this is we're actually going to start with number 3 because I added this somewhat recently, and it allows you to create those rooms in bulk really quickly, and then we will export all of those rooms that we created and then update the metadata. So enough talking, let's walk through it. So I'm going to choose option 3, and it's going to give a few different input prompts. So the first one is the number of rooms we want to create. If you don't put anything in here, if you just leave it blank and hit enter, it will default to 10 rooms. There is a minimum of 1. So if you put 0, you will get an error. It will yell at you. So we'll say 15. And then it's going to ask for the base name. So it will default to room if you don't put anything in here, but we will say maple. And this is basically going to be maple space is how it's going to be interpreted. Then it's going to ask for the starting number. So if I wanted room, maple 101, maple 102, maple 103, this is where I would put in that starting number. It will default to 0 if you don't put anything, but we will put 101. And then it's going to ask for the site name. The site name is optional, but if there is a site that you want to associate it to, you can put that name in here and it will do a lookup to see if that site exists. So we will leave it blank for our demo here and hit enter. And so it's going to create rooms. And basically you'll see here in the CLI, it's going to print out each room as it's creating it. And you'll see a unique ID being generated by Lens for that room name. So we've got our 15 rooms created. It reports that here. It will also report if there are or are not errors. And now that those rooms are created, we can hit enter to return to the main menu. So now that we've basically just created a bunch of rooms in bulk, I know that those rooms are not all necessarily the same room size. They don't have the same capacity. So I need to update that metadata. And the way that we are going to do that is by exporting all of the rooms from our Lens tenant. So we hit option 1, and you will see that all of our rooms are starting to export, and they're being printed to the CLI here just to give you an indication that things are happening. We have a lot of rooms in the tenant, so you'll also notice that we're using pagination to make sure that we don't hit any API rate limits. When the export is complete, you will see that all of the data has been exported to room_data.csv. That is a blank file that is included in the project. You will see if it completes with or without errors. And typically the errors you would see here are network errors if that does happen. And then you'll get a total count of all of the rooms exported. So I've got 164 rooms in my tenant that were exported. From here, we're going to pop over to our code editor, to the room data CSV file to work on updating some of this data. So if you're curious, that room data CSV, if you look in the directory, you'll see the file here. I just already had it up on the screen. So that's how you would open it if and when you need to. So the export exports all of our rooms, right? And you can see here that we've kind of got information that is not consistent. We have some rooms that don't have sites or metadata. And so we can go through here and we can update things as we want to. Now, we don't have to update all of the metadata at one time for all of the rooms. If we want to grab a bunch of these rooms and remove them from the CSV, we can do that. That doesn't delete the rooms. It just means that we are not using them in the CSV to update the data within our Lens tenant. So we'll remove a bunch of these. And some of the capabilities, some of the things that you can do, if you look across the top here, we have name, ID, capacity, size, floor, site name, and site ID. So site ID and room ID are programmatically created by Lens when you create either a room or a site. So you can't change, and you should not change the ID. However, you can rename the room or rename the site if you want to. Just don't change the IDs. You can't change those. So if we had room names that were not consistent and we wanted to rename them, maybe this should be Maple, 201 and 202. We can do that, and it will look at the room ID and update the room name for that ID. If we want to add capacity, maybe this should be 3, and this should be 4. We can add that here. We can also change the size. So this might be a small room, and this might be a medium room. Let's actually change this to 6. We can do that, and we can also associate it with the floor. So maybe Maple 201 is on the second floor of our building, and Maple 301 is on the third floor. So we can associate a floor number or floor name here as well. If we want to assign a site to our rooms, if we know the site name, we can use that site name. If we want to create a brand new site that will be used for the rooms, we can do that as well. We will say US Wisconsin. And we will add that here. We're going to take out some of these. We don't need to do all of this in the demo, but you get the point. So basically, we're updating the room name, and we are adding metadata, and we are creating a brand new site. Now, if we want to rename a site, we can do that as well. Let's say up here on our Aspen rooms, we don't want this to be Denver anymore. Maybe we want to change this to USCO. So what that's going to do is it's going to go out and see that we have put a new name here, and it's going to check and see for the record of this site, does the site name that we entered here match the site ID? And it's going to come back and say, nope, it does not. So it will update this site ID to have this new site name. So we'll pull that out here, and we'll take out the rest of these. We don't need them for the demo. One other thing you can do, you saw that we already created the rooms in bulk, but if you want to, you can also create the rooms directly in the CSV. So maybe we've got Pine rooms that we want to create, so we can just put the name in. Remember, the ID is created programmatically, so we don't put anything there. Maybe we know this is a capacity of 8. It's going to be a large room, and it's on the 4th floor, and it's going to be associated with the site of US HQ. Again, we don't put a site ID in here because it's programmatically created when the site is created. So now that we have added a brand new room, associated it with an existing site, we have changed the room names, added some room metadata, and created a new site, and then we have renamed a site for our Aspen room. So let's save the file, and we're going to pop back over to our terminal, and it's still showing the data from the export. All we have to do is hit enter to return to the main menu, and now we press 2 to import that data into Lens. And so what you'll see here is that as each row of the CSV is read, it's going to resolve the site for the site name or site ID. It's then going to send or print the row that it's sending to Lens. So you can see here that we are sending these fields for this Pine room. You can see that it did resolve a site ID for USHQ because that already existed. And then this last thing that we get here, this last print to the CLI, is the API response back from Lens saying, hey, I got the data that I'm supposed to update. I updated it, and here's proof. So we can see, yep, we've got Pine. It now has a room ID associated with it because the room was created. We've got capacity of 8, size large. It's on the 4th floor, and it's associated with the USHQ site, which was an existing site, and this is the ID that is there for the existing site. So you'll see for each one of the rooms, the row read from the CSV, that it's running the site resolver that's looking up the site name and the site ID, the row that it's sending to Lens, and the response back from the Lens tenant. and then we can hit enter and return to the main menu. So you can use this tool in whatever fashion makes sense for you. If you want to, update rooms by site, you can do that. You can, remove items from the CSV and update in a small fashion. You can create rooms in bulk and then import them and change all of the metadata in the site associations. So there's a lot of flexibility here with this tool to give you the option to use it in whatever fashion makes sense for you. Once you're done with the tool, you hit 0 to exit, and the session is terminated, and you're back in the root of the folder or repository. So with that, I hope that made sense. If you have any issues that you encounter or any feedback on things that you would like to see, what you can do is you can go to the GitHub repo and you can open an issue, and whether that's a feature request or a bug or whatever, open an issue, I'll see it, and will do my best to get to it. So thanks for taking the time to hang out with me and check out LENSCTL Ops Deck. I hope that it helps you and gives you some inspiration to take a look at the Lens APIs and create something that helps move the needle at your company. Until next time, see you later.